Hey everyone, welcome to another installment of Harry Potter Theory. In this video, we're going to be discussing everyone's favourite transfiguration professor, or at least everyone's most recent favourite transfiguration professor, Minerva McGonagall, as well as what she would see in the fabled Mirror of ERISED. In order to determine what Minerva McGonagall would see in the mirror, we need to take a good look at her life. She had lots of ups and downs in her life involving her career, family, and love interests. So it's important that we establish a sound understanding of what she went through to properly assess what she might actually see. Minerva McGonagall is a Scottish half-blood witch that attended the Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, and later worked there. Her age is actually a bit of a canon blunder, because she appears in Fantastic Beasts 2, The Crimes of Grindelwald, and appears to be in her 20s. What's interesting about this is that J.K. Rowling revealed in the original series that McGonagall started teaching at the school in 1956, at the age of 21. In a 1995 conversation between Umbridge and McGonagall, McGonagall reveals that she had been working at Hogwarts 39 years this December, which is consistent with what Rowling had said initially. While she attended Hogwarts, she was the most talented student of her entire year. She achieved top grades in her Newts and Owls, and showed powerful magical ability from a very young age. She was the daughter of Muggle Robert McGonagall and witch Isobel Ross, and she had two brothers, Malcolm and Robert Jr. Minerva had a bit of an interesting upbringing, because her father never knew that her mother, Isobel, was a witch. After Isobel fell in love with Robert, she gave up magic in pursuit of a normal life with her Muggle love interest. Isobel eventually became pregnant with their firstborn, Minerva. When Minerva was born, Isobel recognized immediately that Minerva may very well show signs of magical ability. When Minerva began to show signs of magic, like summoning toys to herself and making the family cat do her bidding, she knew that she would have to tell her husband about her background, and that she was a witch. After Isobel told Robert, they stayed together, but their trust never was the same, which made a huge impact on the family. It was a very sad time for all. Minerva's siblings, Robert and Malcolm, would also later prove to be magical. Isobel helped Minerva conceal her magical accidents as a child, inevitable magical occurrences that would happen to any child learning magic. Minerva, in time, became very close with her Muggle father, and she is said to, in temperament, resemble him more than her mother. After finishing school, Minerva went on to work for the Ministry of Magic. She was offered a position at the Department of Magical Law Enforcement, the department of the ministry responsible for upholding wizarding law. Before starting the position, she returned to her parents' home for the summer to spend time with her family. It was during this time that she met Dougal McGregor, a clever, handsome muggle who lived in the same town. The two instantly hit it off, sharing common interests, a sense of humour, and just an overall outlook on life. McGregor would eventually propose to McGonagall, an offer that she accepted. However, after accepting his proposal, she began to think, to brood. Much like her mother did with her father, she failed to ever mention to Dougal that she was a witch. She knew that if they wed under these false pretenses, and he ever found out, it could mean that she would go on to follow her mother's unhappy footsteps. When her mother Isobel told her father Robert that she was a witch, it had a profound impact on the family, their trust, and their relationship. Minerva, considering all of this, decided that marrying him was not the right thing to do. The worst part about it was that she could not even tell him the reason why. If she had told him that she was a witch, it could have been a breach of the International Statute of Secrecy, which would have put her job at the ministry in danger. 3 days after giving McGregor her revised decision, she left for London in pursuit of her new career. This was one of the most trying times of her life. Though she was very much in love with McGregor, it turned out that he was not to be the only love interest of her life. After leaving for London, Minerva began working at the Ministry of Magic. Her initial time at her new workplace was difficult, as she was still suffering from the decision that she made regarding McGregor. At this point in time, there was still more of a distinct divide between the wizarding and Muggle worlds, and there was definitely more prejudice towards Muggles and Muggle-borns. And Minerva, who was very close with her father, and even fell in love with a Muggle, did not enjoy this environment. In spite of everything, she still excelled in her work, as she had always been an exceptional student, hard worker, and innately very magically talented. She had earned the attention and respect of her older boss, Elphinstone Urquhart, who would eventually offer her a promotion. Minerva, after some consideration, turned the promotion down, missing her home and family in Scotland too much. In an attempt to return closer to home, she applied at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, where she was very quickly offered a posting in the Transfiguration Department, under Transfiguration Department head Albus Dumbledore. It was at Hogwarts School that Minerva would become the strict Transfiguration professor that we all know and love. She was strict, but fair, and truly cared for her students and their futures. When she returned home, she was devastated to hear that her former love interest, Dougal McGregor, had gotten married with another local. Knowing that she turned him away without ever giving him a proper explanation, she wallowed in her sorrow, and knew that she would have to accept how things had turned out. Albus Dumbledore, who was her boss at the time, comforted her on the night that she found out, helping to form the strong relationship that the two would go on to have. Despite leaving her position at the Ministry of Magic, Minerva's former boss, Elphinstone Urquhart, would contact her frequently. What she didn't know, however, was that he was actually in love with her, and on one occasion, when he was visiting her, proposed marriage. McGonagall, who still hadn't moved on from McGregor, had to turn down Urquhart's proposal.
Eventually, however, after the First Wizarding War had ended, Elphinstone got through to her. He incessantly proposed for years, unable to accept the fact that she would not be with him. When McGonagall was certain that she was over McGregor, she finally accepted his offer. They got engaged while strolling around the lake near the Hogwarts grounds, and the pair would eventually live in a cottage together in Hogsmeade. Unfortunately, however, Minerva, who had finally refound happiness, was once again stuck with tragedy when Elphinstone suddenly and tragically passed away from a venomous tentacular bite. After this time, Minerva couldn't bear to live in their cottage and moved back into Hogwarts School. After Elphinstone died, she poured everything into her work and quietly suffered. A real tragedy. So, now that we know exactly what Minerva went through, we can start to speculate on what she might see in the Mirror of ERISED. I've done a few videos of these lately, but I like these videos to be all-encompassing, so I'm going to include a very brief introduction to the Mirror of ERISED and explain what it does. In case you've forgotten how the Mirror of ERISED works, it's a magical mirror that shows us the deepest, most desperate desires of our hearts. This is reflected in the mirror's name, no pun intended, as ERISED flipped around reads as desire. The mirror itself was made sometime before the end of the 19th century and is located in the Room of Requirement in Hogwarts. Engraved on the mirror are the words ERISED stra eru oit ub kafru oit on wosi, which backwards reads, I show not your face, but your heart's desire. The danger lies in people losing track of reality after witnessing whatever it is they've witnessed in the mirror. They become obsessed with what they've seen and are completely unable to accept that for the time being, it's just fantasy and nothing more. It's natural for human beings to desire things that are unattainable, and even more natural to desire things, period. So almost everyone sees something in the mirror. I think that the beauty in McGonagall's backstory is that it gives us a lot of ammunition with regards to what she might actually see. She went through so much tragedy and heartbreak in her life, so there are many possibilities for what she would witness. I'm going to include a couple of theories here. My first theory is that McGonagall would see herself as a child with her family. When her mother revealed to her father that she was a witch, it had a profoundly negative impact on the family dynamic. A dynamic that before that point was beautiful. I think that she would see herself, her mother, her father, and her brothers all happy and all unfazed by Isobel's confession that she was a witch. My second theory is that she would see herself once again living in the cottage in Hogsmeade with an alive Elphinstone Urquhart. He would never have been subjected to poison, and he would be alive and well. The two would grow old together, and McGonagall would continue with her posting at Hogwarts, but with the addition of a much happier and fuller home life. And my third theory is that McGonagall would see herself in her hometown, married to her first love, Dougal McGregor. She would have professed her magical background to him, and he would have not been fazed by it. The two would be deeply in love and raise a family in the farm fields of Scotland. I think that this is the most likely theory, because McGonagall seemingly displayed the highest amount of affection for McGregor. Though she did fall in love with Elphinstone later on, it's not indicated anywhere that she was head over heels for him, which was the way she felt about McGregor. It has been expressed that when Minerva met Dougal, it was the first and only time in her life that she might have said to lose her head, which, for a very switched-on Minerva, is really saying something. And that's it for this video. What do you guys think? Which theory do you think has the most merit? Am I missing anything? Do you have theories of your own about this? Let us know down in the comments section below. Until next time,
You're a wizard, Harry.